I count on the loving help of my darling wife, Camilla. In recognition of her own loyal public service since our marriage 17 years ago, she becomes my Queen Consort. I know she will bring to the demands of her new role the steadfast devotion to duty on which I have come to rely so much.
Something happened today that nobody saw coming. King Charles stood before the cameras, his face tight with pain, his voice shaking as he said words that would echo through history.
These challenges know no borders. No fortress can protect us against them this time. Instead, the answer lies in partnership.
Her Majesty, the Queen Consort Camilla, is to forfeit her royal title, effective immediately, pending a full investigation. The room went completely silent. Reporters froze. Camera flashes lit up the hall like lightning. This wasn't just another royal announcement. This was the moment when everything changed. Never in modern history had a reigning king publicly stripped his wife of her title. Not like this. Not with the whole world watching. The Queen Mary crown sat beside him, its diamonds catching the light, a painful reminder of what was being torn apart. Palace aides stood frozen. One whispered, "It's done." Outside, church bells rang across London's grey sky. Inside, a royal family was falling apart. The question burning in everyone's mind was devastating. What could make a king do this to his own wife? The brooch that shattered everything. According to sources inside Buckingham Palace, the trigger wasn't gossip. It was real. A sapphire brooch that belonged to Princess Diana appeared suddenly at an auction in Geneva.
It's the blue oval sapphire with 14 diamond clusters on a white gold band, and I'm going to see if I can find a similar one.
How it got there was a mystery until investigators traced it back to Ray Mill House, Camilla's private home in Wiltshire. Princess Anne raised the alarm immediately. Prince William, fiercely protective of his mother's memory, demanded answers. Catherine reportedly told Charles quietly but firmly, "Protect the crown, no matter the cost." When Charles signed the order, his hands shook. The pen felt heavy, carrying centuries of tradition and heartbreak. His voice echoed with determination. The crown must remain pure. The British monarchy now stands at a dangerous crossroads. Outside the palace gates, the world watches, stunned. Inside, hallways once filled with ceremony are now silent. Staff whisper. Advisors meet behind locked doors. Could a single jewel unravel everything the monarchy has built? Behind this announcement lies more than scandal. It's a tale of grief and guilt buried beneath royal grandeur. The story of how a sapphire brooch became the spark that lit the most shocking royal crisis of our time. The story begins months earlier. The royal household was preparing for the Heritage Gala, a spectacular night celebrating Britain's history. Seamstresses worked late. Jewelers polished heirlooms. Palace staff discussed the grand evening ahead. At the center stood Queen Camilla. She would wear Queen Mary's crown, along with jewels that once belonged to Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana. The newspapers called it a beautiful union of royal legacies. But within the palace walls, something darker was stirring. It started quietly. A rare sapphire brooch appeared at a Geneva auction house. Sharp-eyed collectors noticed something unusual.
This is very similar to Kate's ring, size-wise, but we have got different sizes, a bit more practical for you to wear.
Great, yes please. Wow, I feel like a princess.
The brooch looked like one Diana had worn publicly. When they looked closer, they found a tiny engraving. D. 1981, Diana's personal mark. Experts confirmed it was authentic, the very brooch supposed to be safely stored in the Royal Collection Trust. So how had it ended up in Geneva? The discovery sent shockwaves through the palace. Investigators traced the ownership trail through shipping documents and invoices. Every step led to Ray Mill House, Camilla's estate. Princess Anne demanded an official audit of the royal jewelry registry. When results arrived, they were devastating. Documents were missing. Transfer forms had been altered. Most alarming, certain notes carried initials resembling CP Camilla Parker. For William and Catherine, this created an impossible situation. They were caught between duty to the monarchy and loyalty to Diana's memory. They arranged a family dinner at Clarence House. William broke the uncomfortable silence. "Mother's memory is not a commodity," Catherine added softly. "A crown gleams brightest when it's honest." The words hung in the air. Behind closed doors, Charles drafted a letter to the Geneva auction house demanding confirmation. What came back shattered any hope. The brooch was genuine. The paperwork showed it had been deliberately sold, and authorization traced back to Camilla's representatives. Inside the palace, trust fractured. The Heritage Gala, meant to celebrate unity, now threatened to expose deep cracks. The night everything fell apart. On October 11th, the palace released a careful statement. Her Majesty will assist with an internal inquiry regarding certain royal heirlooms. It sounded calm, but beneath those words, a storm was raging. At Clarence House, the Maple Room became a courtroom. Charles sat at the head of the table, his face strained. Anne sat to his right, expression sharp. William and Catherine to his left, both serious. At the far end sat Camilla, her face pale, wearing a simple gold chain instead of her trademark pearls. The silence was suffocating. Camilla finally broke it. "You all think I stole something." Her eyes moved to Charles. "Do you think I stole her?" Everyone understood. Her meant Diana. Charles's response came slowly. "It's not about her. It's about the crown. It's about what people believe." Anne slid a thick folder across the table. "Confidential" was stamped on the front. "These speak for themselves," she said flatly. Camilla's lips trembled. "These were not my orders." William leaned forward, his tone calm but edged with steel. "Then say whose they were, because silence will cause more damage than any scandal." Charles finally spoke. "Whoever signed it no longer matters. Ambiguity is poison to the crown." Behind him, the imperial state crown shimmered in its case, half in light, half in shadow. Camilla's composure cracked. Her voice rose. "Do you think I wanted this life? This burden? I rebuilt myself for this family, and now I'm being destroyed for something I may never have ordered." Anne's response was ice cold. "No one's destroying you, but trust, once lost, rarely returns." Catherine spoke next, her voice soft but cutting. "These jewels carry stories. When one disappears, a story is erased, and the crown itself grows dimmer." The clock struck midnight. A decision was made. The Privy Council would meet at dawn. Camilla would give up her title. Charles stayed alone in the Maple Room. He stared at the crown. His whisper filled the emptiness. The crown endures. Hours later, Camilla's car rolled toward Ray Mill House. When she arrived, she found a photograph from her coronation. She and Charles were smiling. She looked at it, then turned it face down. In London, Anne told her brother on the phone, "You did the right thing." Charles replied, "It won't heal." Anne answered softly, "It wasn't meant to heal. It was meant to protect." When the crown cracked. During Heritage Gala preparations, expert jewelers were brought in to prepare each piece. A junior curator, cross-referencing against the registry, noticed something odd. One sapphire brooch couldn't be located. At first it seemed like a filing error, but when they investigated further, the mystery deepened. The brooch wasn't in any storage location, it simply wasn't where it should be. Then came alarming news. A jewel collector in Switzerland saw a listing at a Geneva auction house. A sapphire brooch that looked remarkably familiar. He noticed something in the photographs. A tiny engraving. D. 1981. Diana's personal mark. The collector contacted his London connections. Word reached the palace within hours. Palace officials contacted the Geneva auction house. When documentation arrived, Experts confirmed the worst. This was the missing sapphire brooch from Diana's collection. Not a replica, the exact same piece. The question was devastating. How did it get from a secure royal vault to Geneva? Investigators traced the ownership trail through shipping documents, invoices, and communication logs. Each piece of evidence led to an answer nobody wanted. The trail led to Ray Mill House. Documents showed the brooch had been moved through intermediaries who specialized in handling high-value items for wealthy clients. These intermediaries had been paid through accounts connected to financial arrangements associated with Camilla's household. Princess Anne wasn't satisfied with maybes. She demanded a complete audit of the royal jewelry registry. The audit took weeks. When the final report arrived, it was more troubling than anticipated. The audit revealed a pattern. Over several years, there had been multiple irregularities. Valuable pieces had been signed out, but return documentation was incomplete. Transfer forms showed alterations. Valuation notes bore initials that didn't match official records. Most damaging, several documents carried initials unmistakably recognizable as CP. For William and Catherine, this created an impossible dilemma. They were torn between duty to the crown and loyalty to Diana's memory.
I think royal duty is extremely important. I think it's part of the fabric of what the royal family and any future monarch has, and it's something that is very important, and I take duty very seriously.
They arranged a family dinner to observe Camilla's reactions. During the meal, William steered conversation toward heritage and legacy, talking about preserving history for future generations. Catherine spoke about the emotional weight certain objects carry, mentioning Diana's ring and how important it is that such items are protected. They watched Camilla carefully. She remained mostly composed, but there were small tells, a tightening around her eyes, a pause before responding. By evening's end, they had learned what they needed. Camilla was aware something was wrong. William made the difficult decision to bring evidence formally to his father. He prepared a comprehensive briefing document, the integrity paper. It laid out facts clearly, the missing items, the paper trail, the financial connections, all without emotion, just facts. When William presented the document to Charles, the meeting was brief and devastating. Charles read in silence. His face showed confusion, then disbelief, then resigned sadness. He asked only a few questions. When finished, he set the papers down. I need time to think. But time was something they didn't have. Rumors were circulating. The palace communications team warned they might have only days before the story broke publicly. As October moved forward, the palace atmosphere became strained. The royal jewelry registry transfer from the Tower to Clarence House was the first public signal something serious was happening. In the Lancaster room, senior advisors gathered for meetings lasting past midnight. They reviewed evidence repeatedly, looking for alternative explanations. The Geneva file was particularly damning. The auction house provided meticulous documentation. Photographs, insurance appraisals, provenance records, communication logs with the consignor. Those records showed emails and calls with intermediaries who admitted working for a client identified by initials. Those initials, along with location details, pointed unmistakably toward Camilla's household. When Charles received the complete dossier, he read it 3 times. According to one aide, he looked like he'd aged 10 years in an afternoon. He kept returning to one document, a transfer form authorizing movement of the brooch. The signature was either Camilla's or a skilled forgery. Either was devastating. Charles finally spoke 2 words. Not again. Princess Anne confronted Charles directly. She walked into Clarence House one morning. You cannot hide this. The evidence is too strong. You have to act. Charles initially resisted, talking about needing more time. But Anne was immovable. She reminded him of their mother's example. Queen Elizabeth had always put the institution first. That was what duty looked like. One night, a palace guard noticed a light in a gallery room. He found Camilla standing alone before Queen Mary's crown. Without turning, she whispered, "Will they take it from me?" The guard quietly backed away. That same night, Charles summoned legal advisors. He needed to understand his options. The legal advice was sobering. Given the evidence and likelihood of public exposure, there was only one path. Camilla would need to step back. An investigation would be announced. Transparency was the only way to maintain public trust. By dawn on October 12th, the final Geneva report arrived. The auction house had cooperated fully. The findings were unambiguous. The brooch was authentic. The sale had been authorized through representatives with apparent authority from Camilla's household. Money had been transferred to accounts with clear connections to Ray Mill House. There was no more room for doubt. At breakfast, William addressed his father. "You always told us the crown serves the people. Show them that's true." Charles replied, "The crown also serves history, and history has a long memory." Later that morning, Anne and William formally presented the complete evidence. Catherine was there, wearing Diana's sapphire ring. The symbolism was unmissable. The meeting lasted less than 30 minutes. Charles accepted what had to be done. He requested a Privy Council session and began drafting his statement. When daylight robbery shocked Paris. Royal theft isn't rare. Just weeks before the Camilla scandal, another shocking incident captured international attention. On November 20th, visitors to the Musée Cognac-J in Paris expected a quiet day. Instead, at 12:15, 4 masked men burst through the entrance carrying axes and bats. What happened next unfolded with terrifying speed. The men smashed specific display cases with shocking efficiency. Alarms screamed. Visitors scattered. Within 4 minutes, the thieves grabbed their targets and escaped on scooters. The entire operation took less than 6 minutes. What did they take? 7 priceless artworks, including 2 royal snuff boxes that had belonged to King George V and Queen Mary, on loan from the Royal Collection Trust. The theft made worldwide headlines. Security experts were baffled by how thoroughly the thieves understood the museum's layout. The planning suggested a carefully orchestrated operation. What made the Paris robbery relevant to the Camilla situation was questions about insider involvement. How had thieves known exactly which cases to target? Investigators examined whether someone inside had provided information. This same question was being asked in London. How had Diana's brooch ended up in Geneva? The level of access required, the knowledge of procedures, the ability to generate legitimate paperwork, all suggested someone with insider status. The parallel wasn't lost on observers. In both situations, royal artifacts that should have been secure had been compromised. Both cases suggested involvement from people with legitimate access. October 13th dawned cold over London. By 9 o'clock, reporters had gathered outside Clarence House. At exactly 10 o'clock, Charles entered the Grand Hall. He looked drawn but dignified. Behind him walked William. Catherine stood to one side. Anne was there as well. On a pedestal sat Queen Mary's crown. Charles stepped to the microphone. When he spoke, his voice was steady but carried emotion. With profound sadness, I must confirm a decision not made lightly. The crown must remain above reproach. Her Majesty, the Queen Consort Camilla, hereby withdraws from all official duties and relinquishes her title, effective immediately, pending investigation into irregularities concerning items from the royal collection. The silence was absolute. Charles continued, "This decision arises not from anger, but from necessity. The crown is more than precious metals. It is trust. It is the bond between sovereign and people. That bond must never be broken." Camera flashes created a strobe effect. Charles delivered his most quoted line. "The strength of the monarchy is not measured by splendor. It is measured by conscience, by willingness to hold itself to the highest standards, even when doing so causes pain." He turned and nodded to William, who placed a velvet-bound decree on the lectern. Catherine touched William's arm, a gesture captured by cameras. Charles concluded, "To the people of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth, I ask for your understanding. The crown has endured for centuries because it has always chosen duty over comfort. That principle guides us now." Then Charles bowed his head. Anne stepped forward and placed her hand on his shoulder. That gesture became one of the defining images of the day. William and Catherine exited through flashing cameras. At Ray Mill House, Camilla watched on television. She sat perfectly still. When it ended, she removed her wedding ring, set it on the table, and whispered, "It's finished." Charles retreated to the maple room. He stood before the glass case with the crown. He reached toward it but didn't touch. An aide later reported hearing him whisper, "Forgive me." Church bells tolled across London, 12 strikes marking noon, but also marking an ending and a beginning. By evening, public opinion leaned supportive. 68% agreed with Charles's handling. Many respected his willingness to put integrity above personal loyalty. At Kensington Palace, William and Catherine prepared for a charity event. Catherine wore a gray dress and Queen Elizabeth's pearl bracelet. William took her hand. Mother would have been proud. Camilla remained in seclusion. Her press secretary issued a brief statement about cooperation, what it all means. The crown endured. That statement captured a profound truth. Institutions outlast individuals. The crown had survived worse crises, but endurance comes at a cost. Charles had been forced to publicly act against his wife. Camilla had lost everything. William and Catherine had been thrust into prominence. Yet within this crisis were seeds of renewal. By acting decisively, by choosing transparency, Charles strengthened the monarchy's moral authority. The decision represented a break with past practice. Historically, royal scandals were managed through silence. But Charles chose a different path, more appropriate for the modern age. He acknowledged a problem, investigated it, and took action. For William and Catherine, the crisis accelerated their emergence as the monarchy's future. They had handled themselves with dignity and wisdom. The story transcends any individual. It's about how institutions maintain legitimacy in an age of transparency. It's about the tension between personal loyalty and public duty. The sapphire brooch was never just jewelry. It was a connection to Diana, to complicated past, to unresolved grief. When it disappeared, it opened wounds that had never healed. And so the crown sits, gleaming and patient. It has witnessed this drama as it has witnessed countless others. It will witness many more, because the crown, unlike the people who wear it, endures. So what do you think? Was the monarchy right to protect its heritage so fiercely, even at such personal cost? We'd love to hear your perspective in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from, and if you found this story compelling, please like this video and subscribe for more analysis of the royal stories that shape history. Because sometimes, the most important chapters aren't written in grand ceremonies, but whispered through palace corridors in moments of crisis and conscience.